Hello, welcome to another tutorial, and we are still on Compose Life with these ones, and this one is kind of a composed setup based around Flora and Momentos. And what we're kind of looking at here is composing a piece to do studies from, but unlike a still life, we're going to be, you've got the option of moving things around with this one and, trying it and retrying it. So you've got a nice bunch of objects that you can kind of move and keep changing around each time you want to try and have a go at sketching it out, and kind of really looking at proportions with it and how things kind of measure against each other. That's kind of where I've put the plate in the middle of the leaf, and I've got our Auntie Rita's lighter down here, and some china, and they're all kind of there to kind of show scale, and so you can kind of practice proportion. It's really great for repeated study sketches, and you might get to know objects a little bit better going through all of this. So I would kind of place into the composition something maybe kind of precious or a memento, which is a nice thing to do because you get to spend a bit of time with it and maybe do a bit of reflecting on where it's from and who it was from and some of the memories around it, that kind of thing. And for materials for this, I would go for charcoal or pencil or fine liner. I'm just going to do this one in pencil for now. And we'll just see if I can get the camera up to the pad. So that kind of makes a little bit of sense there. So what I've done is I've just started to sketch it out very roughly, and when I'm talking about proportions, I've literally measured out the page, so where the fern leaves kind of sit here. I've done it all in big, and I keep going on about the shapes. Did a big triangle to get the hosta leaf in there, rectangle to get the china in at the bottom there, and then we've got the loose stripe kind of coming in. So it's all about kind of dividing the whole page up so you can get your composition quite quickly mapped out. Kind of dividing it into blocks really, so there's no harm in having grids. I'm kind of doing this after the event because I've already drawn that out, but and kind of big circles and things like that going on, just so you can get things mapped out. And this is kind of an exercise to kind of make you focus on the biggest shapes, the biggest patterns, and also maybe concentrate a little bit on the negative space. So these little shapes here that are sitting in between things, that might also help if you look at what's in the gaps as well. And I think it's nice because you can really enjoy starting to pull the shapes out of the paper. It's almost like sculpture, once you get these initial lines on, then you can, and it's good to have things laid on the side because it's good practice for your kind of ellipses, which can be a bit tricky. So a big temptation with ellipses and how they sit is to draw what's in your head and not what you see. So it's a really good way of practicing those. And I've got quite a few going on here actually, because some of them are nearer and further away. The shapes of the ellipses are different. So yeah, enjoy pulling the shapes out of the paper. Pretend you're being a bit of a sculpture and kind of lifting things out. Once you've got things like the lighter. Wouldn't really worry too much about detail with this task. More just kind of getting those shapes sitting on the paper and just having fun just mapping things out. And just maybe go for block tone as well. And it's entirely up to you what objects you put in, how much detail you want to put in. You could literally just do it with, you know, leaves and some very simple objects that don't have a lot of detail, so you don't overwhelm yourself. And just make sure you get your lighting quite nice as well. So it's a little bit flat here today because it's raining and the sky's quite dull. I don't really want to use room lights with it either. Have a good light source, and preferably just coming from one direction so you get some nice shadows and shading going on. I suppose really the exercise is about pulling out these objects and spending some time with the objects, and hopefully that'll give you a bit of, you know, reflective time. I wouldn't even worry about having a finished drawing. I would just play around with shapes and proportions and keep it nice and loose. Lots of marks. So keep it nice and messy, and don't get hung up about getting things wrong. You know, I've kind of roughly got these hoster patterns drawn down. And I know I keep saying it over and over again, but try and use the edge of your pencil instead of the point. If you're using the edge, it keeps your hand a lot looser. As soon as you start to use the point, you get very tight with your mark making. And if you use the edge of your pencil, you can get really, really nice and loose and not worry too much about. I think this is a 6B, which is a great pencil for shading and getting tone in. The only problem with doing these videos is trying to stay focused enough to talk. I'm not getting too distracted by actually doing the drawing, because you do start to get a bit drawn into it, which is a good thing. So, yeah, I've chosen quite a complicated plate there, but there's no harm in just blocking out sections of it, sections of the blue glaze. It's a really nice hoster leaf with some really nice shapes on it. Just to kind of represent the cream. You know, it can be as loose as that. It's just great if you've got a little setup that you can leave somewhere. You know, it's going to take up a small space. You can attempt it and then move things around and go back to it, and this, having these lovely objects that you've kind of got that might be sitting on a shelf somewhere. It'd be nice to kind of spend a little bit of time with them. And what I would say for this exercise is concentrate on the bits that you're getting right, not the bits that you're getting wrong, you know, and just focus on the bits that have gone well and don't dwell on the bits that have not gone quite right. You can just draw it again, you know. It's not something that's set in stone and you're only allowed to do it one time only. So I know we do pack an awful lot of information into these tutorials, so it's actually probably worth revisiting some of the stuff that we've gone through, especially if you've already done the exercise once. And it's just, yeah, so this is kind of mainly aimed at being a mindful exercise, something to kind of take you off somewhere else, maybe trigger some happy thoughts. We've got Rita's light today. We've got a lot of happy memories of Rita. She's a bit of a legend in her own lifetime. So just sitting with that and remembering when we got her the lighter and how chuffed she was that we'd got her name engraved onto it. You know, it's not always just about just doing a drawing. There can be a lot of different things going on when you're putting a creative piece together. So yeah, have it as a nice mindful exercise, maybe a nice calming exercise. If you end up with a nice picture at the end, happy days. You know, that's a bonus. Start on these. I think it's yellow loosestrife, this plant. Good to get a really good random selection of objects as well, because you can bounce off different objects for sizes and proportions and things like that. If you've got a load of leaves together, you're trying to draw a load of leaves and measure them off each other for scale and size, it can be quite tricky because you can lose your way. If you've got a nice saucer and a nice cup sitting in amongst a load of vegetation, it completely changes it up. 6B pencil if you've got one. 4B would probably do it. And just have fun with it. I think I might just carry this on when I've finished the video, actually. But yeah, any questions? We're all checking Facebook pretty much all the time, so that's a good resource if you're getting a bit stuck or frustrated with things. But enjoy this one. Thanks very much, guys.